Hello, welcome to the Physical Therapy Owners Club podcast. I am Nathan Shields, and I've got a returning guest today, Jamey Schrier, physical therapist and CEO of Practice Freedom U. Jamey has been on, a few times, right, Jamey?
Yeah. Half a dozen maybe.
Thanks for joining me again today. I appreciate it.
Oh, Nathan, appreciate you having me back.
It's cool to talk with you as both of us are working with PT owners, you through Practice Freedom U, and me, of course, with the stuff at Physical Therapy Owners Club. I was excited to talk to you today because you brought up the topic of helping owners get unstuck. Is that about right? We're paralyzed. And I think both of us see that as owners, as PT owners reach out and finally start getting some help and support, they're usually at this place of being, quote unquote, stuck. Would you say?
Yeah, I mean, this topic kind of came from the idea of look at the world the last couple of years, right, with COVID. What actually happened? Everything slowed down. A lot of things stopped. And we kind of got used to this pattern of things, right? And I think as we, all of us, most of us stayed in business on some level, whether it was telehealth or just reducing our schedule, but we try to stay and do whatever we can. And we got in this place where perhaps we're feeling stuck. We're feeling like, we've taken so much energy to keep this business moving and keep it from falling and keep it from failing. And we're now kind of coming back, maybe to where we were, maybe a little bit better, but we're still stuck, trapped, either physically or mentally. So I'm just noticing it with so many people that I'm talking to that are, and not just practice owners, but just people in business or just people in general, just kind of feeling that way. And you're seeing it, I think, a lot with this whole great resignation thing that, people don't want to feel that way anymore. And I just thought it'd be a good topic to talk about with you.
Yeah, it seems to be at that point where owners finally reach out. They just recognize either I've hit like a barrier of some kind, and either I don't know what to do or I'm in fear of what I think the next steps might be, and I don't know what that looks like or what that's going to entail for me in order to get past that.
Yeah, for sure. Adam Grant wrote a really great article, New York Times article called Are You Feeling Blah? Have you heard of that?
I haven't heard that one.
Okay. So it's a good article. What he talked about is people are not really depressed, but they're not high either. They're just in this world of just blah. Things are just happening all over the place, out of our control. Obviously, more is even happening with the war breaking out. And he termed it languishing. We're feeling languished. And I was like, ooh, what a great word. Yeah. And it's this word of, I'm not high, I'm not low, I'm just kind of there. And I thought that was a good kind of intro to where we're going with this, is because I know personally, I felt that many times over the last couple of years. I mean, more than I want to count, of I wasn't depressed, but I wasn't up either. And I'm a pretty up person. I'm a pretty, glass half full, abundance mindset. But shit, man, it wasn't easy to keep that mindset. And there was a lot of times, a lot more than I can ever remember, that I was just in this blah mode. And I know there's so many other people out there feeling that way. And that affects how you build your business, how you look at your team, how you engage with your team, how you market, how you treat patients. And I just kind of, just look at this world of, we're kind of there and some of us are stuck. You mentioned fear. I think fear plays a big part of this. I think worry plays a big part of this. I think, we can talk about this a lot. I think the media and what we're hearing on the 24/7 news cycle plays a big part of this, and it affects who we are, and it affects how we build this amazing thing that we're trying to build, and just kind of keeps us almost like, running in quicksand a lot of times.
Yeah. I can see what you're saying, even in my own experience, in that I had owned my clinic for a number of years, and I didn't have the major catastrophe like you did to really rethink of how I should run my business. But I was doing okay financially. I was kind of running with my head cut off in terms of my ownership and treating patients and running the business and all the HR responsibilities, you name it. And I had a young family that I didn't see very often. My vacations sucked because I got calls from the office almost daily while on vacation, that kind of stuff. Finally made the decision to make a change. It wasn't because I had financial strain. Like, the money was okay, right? That wasn't a big burden. And I hadn't really looked at my life to see if this is what I really want. But when I finally sat down in front of a consultant who was going to work with us and shared with us the price tag of what it would take to get some consulting to improve our businesses, I remember telling my wife, listen, I'm not sure if this is the right step. All I know is that I've got to do something different. When I finally stepped back and looked at my life and, okay, things are okay, I could tell then, and I love the word that you used as well, I was kind of languishing. I wasn't necessarily progressing. I had the same gross revenues for probably 4 years in a row, and they weren't bad, but they weren't improving and they weren't great. And so I could see that's when I finally made a decision to make some changes.
I love the word. The word is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, how you doing with your business? I'm doing okay. And almost like okay is good.
Yeah.
Okay is not good. It's better than not okay, I guess. I mean,
right? Yeah.
And I say I guess, because if not okay lights a fire under your butt to move you forward, but does okay do that? Because okay is a really dangerous world. People, came up to me and say, hey, how you doing in your business? I'm doing okay. Is okay moving you to where you want to be?
Right.
And again, this isn't necessarily about the business itself. It's about you and what you want and what your vision is and what your, to some of the senior level people that I work with, maybe in their 50s or even 60s, it's more than just a business. It's a legacy.
Yeah.
It's about, what am I leaving here? What am I creating here? Mm-hmm. And I think when we, tap into that, it can re-energize us.
Yeah.
It can also scare the living crap out of us. And I think there's a fine line between the two. I share that, fear can be a motivator or it can be a detractor. Mm. I think many times we look at fear as a detraction. Fear stops you from doing something. And you and I have had conversations,
right?
Versus the fear of being okay, the fear of staying stuck, the fear of languishing.
Right.
See, I know for you and I know for me, it was the fear of just being okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when have I ever in my life settled for mediocrity and okayness? Mm-hmm. When have I ever? I couldn't get into PT school like that with that mindset.
Yeah.
Right? Couldn't do some of the sports that I did with that mindset. Couldn't have the guts to ask my wife to marry me with that mind. I'm doing okay, whatever. When has any of us used that mindset? But we get into business, we get into this foreign world that we don't have education. We weren't taught in school this. Mm-hmm. And we're in a world which we don't know. And when you don't know something, the fear of the unknown is sometimes worse than the fear of the known. So one of the things that contributes to this okayness, this stuckness, I think, is looking for comfort, looking for protection, which is an interesting oxymoron, because you're looking for comfort by staying in your little bubble of zone.
Yeah.
But the world is changing.
Mm-hmm. So
you are not staying comfortable and stable by staying what you think is comfortable and stable.
Right. Because if you're staying static, then the law of
the world evolves.
Yeah, that's right.
If you're staying, let's say financially, you're making 100,000. Well, guess what? Your 100,000 is now worth less in the last month.
Right.
If you buy milk and bread and gas, you're now 100,000 is worth less. And yet, if you're taking insurances, you can't really charge more.
No.
And in fact, they're cutting your rates as well.
Yeah.
So for a lot of people, that may cause to get smaller and constrict. And what I say is no.
Right.
Now's the time, more than ever in human history, now's the time to grow, to expand. Because here's one thing that hasn't changed, Nathan. You're a human being, right?
Yeah.
Your body is built to fall apart.
Today's the best day of the rest of your life, right?
Not you personally, but my body is built to fall apart. And the more active we are, the more it's going to fall apart and the more we need people like us to fix it.
Yeah.
So there's not a lack of people. Nothing has changed on that level.
No.
Right? So it really, if you look at everything that's happening, that still remains. And we're in a great profession because there's 300 million people to choose from. We just want to choose the people we want to help. So it's not because there's not that. It's just because we get caught up in our brain, and that keeps us small, that keeps us content, that keeps us, as you say, okay.
I love the book Good to Great, and it's been an influential book for hundreds of thousands of people. And it caught me in the first sentence. I read the first sentence. I don't know if you recall what it is, but I read the first sentence and I put it down and I told my wife, this is awesome. Just listen to this one sentence. And it's good is the enemy of great. That's the first sentence. And I thought about that. I'm like, yeah, like being good, being safe, being okay is going to keep you from doing so much more. Right. So
there's a next level to that. When I wrote my book, I guess it's almost 5-6 years ago now, The Practice Freedom Method. And when people got copies of the book, I signed it.
Yeah.
Here's what I used as a quote. The enemy of thriving is arriving.
Mm.
The enemy of good is great. So many people want to convince themselves that they've arrived.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm here. I'm doing okay, Jamey.
Yeah.
And they start fighting for their own limitations.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've heard that with people fighting for your own limitations.
Oh, yeah.
Convincing yourself you're okay. Finding things out there to prove I'm doing well. Comparing yourself to other people and saying, I'm doing well. I'm doing just as good as them. I might be doing better.
Right.
Instead of just focusing on, and this is a question that I ask right from the beginning. I say, what are you doing this for?
Mm-hmm.
And then I shut up. Like, what are you doing this for? And don't tell me to help people. Just like your admissions person in PT school said, yeah, okay, next. Give me more than just give me more than just wanting to help people.
Yeah, exactly.
All of us have a deeper reason of why we're doing what we're doing.
For sure. And
if we don't tap into that, if we start playing superficial instead of going deep with that, when things get difficult, we kowtow and we get small and we look for the comfort zone and we just hope and pray things are better tomorrow, but there's nothing we're doing to make them better tomorrow.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then we blame circumstances such as declining reimbursements, the government, the Medicare thing. We blame, I read something today, someone was blaming the APTA about something. We can always look to blame anybody we want.
Right.
But change doesn't happen until you look in the mirror and you say, what are you about? Mm-hmm. What are you truly about? Because once you dial in on that, it's like power, man. It's like a power source.
Yeah.
And then you start taking some of the how-to stuff that people love to grab and, strategy this, the next strategy, there's a fancy new strategy. Nathan came up with 42 ways of marketing, but you haven't done 2 of them. But Jamey came up with 99 ways to marketing, but you haven't done even with those. I mean, it's like you start becoming reactive to everything that's happening to you.
Yeah.
Instead of owning that power yourself and really dialing in what this is about. I mean, it isn't sexy, but that's how you get unstuck. Right. You got to figure out what the spark is in you that was used to fight for PT school.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about this, Nathan. You sacrifice, maybe not you, but people have sacrificed hundreds of hours of time studying. Stress, academic school stress beyond belief.
Oh, yeah.
That C students can't understand.
Right.
Sacrifice social, sacrifice all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
For the opportunity to pay $100,000+, maybe 150 now, 200.
Oh yeah, easy.
With no guarantee, no safety net, and no guarantee you're actually going to pass the boards and become a licensed therapist. With no guarantee you're going to get a job.
Mm-hmm.
You did it because there was something deep inside you that all you focused on was the prize.
Mm-hmm.
And you had the courage and the grit to move through it despite all of the ups and downs. And what's interesting is we get out, we work for a little bit, and then people like you and people like me and 20, 30 other thousand people want to say, I want to do my own thing. I want to create the life I want. And they go into business with pretty much no education, no experience.
No training.
Maybe they read a $14.95 book. If they did,
maybe,
I appreciate that. And hopefully the Practice Freedom Method was that book. But you then get fearful because you're smart intellectually, academically,
mm-hmm.
physical therapy, but you don't know what you don't know. And that might be the first time in a long time you felt that way.
Right.
And I think that hurts us. That hurts individuals. That hurts us as a profession to be that, what's the word? I don't know what the word is.
Conceited is a strong word. We're high achieving people.
Yes, that's the word.
Conceited?
Being that high and mighty,
right?
That full of yourself, conceited, that you think just because you know something about this topic, you should know about all of these topics.
I'm a doctor. I'm a physical therapist. I should know how to run a business. The guy down the street runs the business fine, and why can't I? We are all, like you said, very high achieving, smart people.
Yeah, and that's our Achilles heel. That's our kryptonite. Our kryptonite, and I don't know where this came from. It's almost like your superpower, if not properly used, will be your biggest weakness. Will be your kryptonite. Your superpower, this magic that you have, if it's not properly harnessed and used in your business, in your life, will become your kryptonite. If you're so smart about stuff and you're so great at learning and applying and treating and all that kind of stuff, which is great, and then you go into this world of the business of physical therapy, which is very different than being the clinical expert in physical therapy,
right?
You will apply that information and it will not land the same.
Yeah.
And you will have a tremendous amount of struggle. And as we know, just by sheer numbers and percentages, most people don't escape this self-employed, being an indentured servant to your business, trading time for money. Mm-hmm. And all you're doing is increasing the time, but the money, at least you made money. I can't tell you how many dashboards, financial dashboards I've looked at, and I'm like, God, you're not even making any money.
Right.
Be miserable like an attorney. A lot of attorneys are miserable. At least they make a bunch of money. They're miserable making money.
That's right.
We're not making any money.
Mm-hmm.
And we're working a ton. There's something wrong with that model. That's BS. That's not right.
It's obvious that so many owners go into ownership and continue to wear the physical therapy hat and don't consider that once you start a business, you are no longer the physical therapist first. You are an owner first, physical therapist second, maybe third, right? And so they fail to apply that learning. I love how you put it. They apply that. They don't put that learning into, now, how do I run a business? What does it take to be successful? If they apply the same learning from their physical therapy school and training and internships to business training and knowledge, then yeah, these very smart people can be very good businessmen and women. And don't you think that owners that can be successful in the physical therapy space are really good small business people? Like there are industries with much higher profit margins where you don't have to know your KPIs super well. You don't have to know the nitty gritty, and there's a lot of leeway to still stay afloat. But the business owners in physical therapy that are good at maintaining a decent profit margin in physical therapy, they're good business owners, and because they are smart.
Yeah, you brought up some really great points. I'll hit on the last point you brought up. My Nostradamus prediction is there's really just two kinds of people that will be left when all of the dust settles. There'll be the business owners and there'll be everybody else, meaning that because of the razor thin profit margins, because of the complexity of business, the intelligence of our customer, the technology that is making things easier to access, AI that will take a lot of the roles of what we think is our secret ingredient, which is going to be some app, right or wrong. It's happening, and it will continue to happen. Being a good business owner of physical therapy, being hip to that stuff, understanding what KPIs are. There might be people on the show right now that don't understand what KPIs are, right, or understand what systems or what marketing is and how marketing is different from advertising. A P&L statement is and why you should be looking at it, not just nodding your head. Yep, I know what that means, but they don't even know it stands for profit and loss. Yeah. This isn't about, it's no longer an option. Mm-hmm. I grew up with some really successful people in Maryland that I heard about since I was like in PT school, right? These were big time people. And of course, Jamey likes to ask questions and really dive in what was going on at the time. Well, this was in the 80s and early 90s before HMOs really hit.
Oh, you're old.
They weren't. Well, shit, man. Here's the thing, Nathan. They weren't some brilliant business people. I respect them.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. Could you be brilliant making $200 a visit, full boat of what you charged, and having zero competition from orthopedists because they didn't own their PT places yet? Mm-hmm. So they had to refer. So all you had to do is go to their office, hang out, buy some, get some dinner, and you would just get a ton of people and you would make money hand over fist. Mm-hmm. You see, you don't have that luxury now. None of people have that luxury. Some people just don't realize it. And they think staying small and having a, whatever you want to call it, a small, whether it's cash based or insurance based, like staying small and having a time for money trade, that's great. That's the secret. No. If that's what you want, that's fine. But we're obviously talking to the people that want more.
Yeah.
You have got to learn how to do this. And like you said before, we're perfect people to do this. Mm-hmm. We're smart. We learned anatomy, neurophysiology. I mean, we know stuff. Right. And if we applied 1/10 of that grit and that determination and that effort, I don't know about you, but this stuff is nowhere near as hard as what I thought physical therapy school was. I thought that was 100 times harder.
Oh, for sure.
And here's the deal. It doesn't cost anywhere near that. And unlike PT school, which you had to wait 20 years to maybe recoup your investment, because those damn student loans for most people linger forever.
Right.
Learning about business, you get to apply right this minute. Mm-hmm. And you get to see if it's going to help. You get to see a return.
Right.
And once you do it, you can just continue to do it. Mm-hmm. And continue to evolve. So it's this whole mentality of, if you just looked at your, when I had my practices, we gave about $1,200, $1,200 to $1,500 in like continuing education.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what's interesting is, as business owners, if you took that same money and instead put it towards your education on treatment, which, like you said, you shouldn't really be doing that anymore. You know plenty. Right. And whoever's selling you that is making money. Trust me. They might say it's for the best, the good of the profession. And I'm not going to argue it's not, but for the good of the business of the profession, knowing a lot more about how to treat someone ain't the solution. Nope. You need to put and invest that money in you. We need to develop you, your skills, your ability, your communication, your rapport building, your ability to look at metrics, your ability to understand marketing. So every time I put a survey out and says, hey, what's the number one problem you're having? Marketing doesn't come up. There's 300 million people. How is it that that's still a problem? And it's been a problem since day one.
Right.
Because you haven't done any, you haven't learned
anything about it.
It ain't that hard.
Right.
It's just people and relationships. And the last time I heard, we're really good at that.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Anyways.
Well, you're exactly right. I mean, I love what we've covered so far in terms of those people who feel like they're stuck, paralyzed, and don't know what to do next. Well, I love how you brought it back to remember, let's think about what your why, what your purpose is, in another word, why you want to do this, what it's all about, because your business is an extension of your individual purpose, right? And it's also an extension of your family's purpose. It's an extension of you and your purpose. And then figuring out or recognizing that you don't know everything about business. In fact, if you're stuck, you probably don't know much about business, or you're too scared to implement it. And then I think to as a connection to that why and purpose, people lose track, or maybe they haven't even considered their vision. Like, where do you want to be? And I find it really hard for me to coach clients, and maybe you've come up against a few of these as well. They'll complain about what they're doing and their team and where they're at, and that kind of stuff. And I'll ask them, well, where do you want to be? What's your ideal scene? Where do you want to go with this? And they're like, I don't know. I just want to be better, I guess. And I look at those people and I think, I can't help you. I cannot coach someone who doesn't know where they're going or what they want to do next, or what the end goal is. People sometimes don't take the time to think about what it is, where it is they want to go. What does that look like? What does that smell like? What does that feel like? What do you see when you're in your ideal space, when you've reached it?
Nathan, it's scary, dude.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Well, because if they have to iterate it, now they're responsible for it, right? And that can be scary.
And remember, I mean, I've have dove in to psychology and sociology more than I ever. I mean, I was failing these courses in college, and I had dove into that because how many classes in your undergraduate did you fail?
None.
How many questions on tests, percentage-wise, did you get wrong?
Oh, yeah, at least 10 to 20%.
10 to 20%. Chances are there's people now that it's 5 to 10%. You and I, we pushed that number down.
I got by.
Nowadays, let's face it. I don't know about you. Ain't no way I'm getting in school nowadays.
Right.
I mean, just clear as day.
Right.
Not with a 980 GRE score, but I digress.
Yeah, right.
Luckily, my school did not require that for that 1 year. But anyways, so think about the hard wiring that has been implemented and put in our brain. The hard wiring is this: you have been rewarded for being right. If I say I'm going to create this type of vision for my business, this type of revenue, this type of team, this type of service, what I'm worried about is, what if I'm wrong? I am not wrong. I can't be wrong. I wouldn't have gotten to school. I wouldn't have gotten to be a licensed professional if I was wrong. And here's the problem. And we see it all the time. Look around your neighbors. I guarantee you know one, or probably more than one, that's probably a not so bright guy, not so bright gal that is extremely successful in their business. Mm-hmm. And you sit there and you like, I could run circles around what I know compared to what you know. And there lies the problem, because they're smart enough to realize they don't know. So they have to rely on other people. Right. So that means they have to get over this idea of letting go. They have to get over this idea of not being the smartest in the room. For very intelligent people like we are, that is not easy to do because it's been ingrained in us for so many years of our lives. Mm-hmm. That's my theory, anyways.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it was Simon Sinek who recommended, if you're in a group and if you really want to learn and progress, find a group in which you are the dumbest in the room. And don't be afraid to admit it. I mean, if you are the smartest in the room, there's no room to grow. So I love how you're talking also about networking, reaching out, finding other people, join masterminds, join groups, join clubs, ask questions, and people are more than willing to help.
Yeah, my son goes to Gonzaga College High School in DC, not the one in Washington State. Yeah. And it's actually the oldest Jesuit school in the country. One of the big, and, you know, these Jesuit schools and these Catholic schools, they're all about values, right? They, you know, just like you and I teach, right? We teach, what are your core values? They have their core values.
Sure.
One of their values, one of their mottos is advocate for yourself. And they push it to the limit on that. I mean, literally.
How cool.
You're having trouble in school, you come to the teacher. Teacher ain't coming to you. You have trouble with something you do. I mean, it is to the nth degree. I can get into some perspectives around that. I think sometimes it might be too much. But then I look at people in our profession, business owners particularly, and how many people are advocating for their well-being, for their financial well-being,
right?
You know, for their, you know, success in life. How many are advocating for their family and what they want versus thinking it's someone else's responsibility, being the victim, not the victor. And I use that story, and I love to share that story because, you know, they're teaching this to my 17-year-old son, which I love. And I'm working with 30-something, 40-something, 50-something, 60-something people that still haven't learned advocating for yourself. Don't sit back and wait to condemn, complain, you know, to somebody else. What are you doing? One of my favorite songs of all time, Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror. It's you in the mirror. What are you doing? Because like you said, there's a whole world willing to help you.
Right.
There's a million ways to do it. There isn't one way to do it. Stop trying to find the golden chalice, the secret to all.
Yes.
The secret is there ain't a secret.
Yeah, there's no next Bitcoin coming.
You know, there isn't a secret. So, you know, it's interesting that, you know, you bring up that and you bring up this, you know, be an advocate for yourself.
Right.
You're having trouble with your family? Good. Stand up and be an advocate. What your business is a vehicle. It's a vehicle to create the life, the lifestyle, and the legacy you want. That's what it is. How you do that and the people you help, you get to make up. Right. Like you said, what is your vision? You make it up. A mentor of mine once said, Jamey, here's what we do as entrepreneurs. He says, we make it up, we make it real, and then we go make it happen. Make it up, make it real, make it happen. We're all making shit up. Yeah. That's what we do. That's what we get to do. We get to make it up. You're not going to find a double-blind study in 99.9% of the stuff we do.
Sure.
You know what your proof is? Your bank account, the smile on your face, the smile and retention on your staff, the 5-star reviews from your patients. Those are the KPIs. too many times we go around and like, well, I just want to learn what like the proven thing out there. There's so many darn variables with that.
You can get there so many ways.
Look, there's 3 things that you need. I call it CST. C stands for concept. The concept is a principle. The concept is a 30,000 foot view. We all need to have that perspective. Too many times we get lost in the weeds and we don't have that perspective, and that's dangerous. The S stands for strategy. The strategy is timely. The strategies that you and I are using right now to teach business owners how to generate referrals or work with their staff are timely, meaning that they change with technology. They change with new research that's being put out there. They're timely for today.
Right.
They will change tomorrow. And then the T stands for tools or tactics. So a particular software or a form or some plugin, those are specific things that you can use to help you implement your strategy. And out of those 3, CST, concept, strategy, and tactic, there's one that people miss. And it's the one that I love to talk about, the one that I feel that it's just who I am. And that is concept. It's the bigger picture. It's seeing what we're really in. It's getting above the fray and actually understanding what this is, understanding what marketing is, understanding what hiring and connecting with people and what they're looking for. Because when you understand from that view, just like the fish story, you begin to know how to fish. Instead of someone just giving you the strategy, which is basically giving you the fish. And then you rely on that until what? Till the strategy changes. But you don't know that until your results start to go down. And then you look for the next strategy and the next strategy, but you fail to actually see what's really going on. And when you start to look at things like that, it becomes a whole lot easier to make decisions, a whole lot easier to know where you're going and what you're trying to accomplish. I wrote down a couple of things, and we already mentioned a lot of them. You know, we talked about getting unstuck, and we talked about, well, what do you do? Well, one thing we do is we need to take care of ourselves. The best way to start getting unstuck is double down on your well-being. It seems counterintuitive, but taking time away from your darn clinic, unplugging the phone, not responding on the computer. How about just start with the weekends? Heck, Nathan, just start with Sunday. No looking at your stuff Sundays. It starts to die down some of this angst. We already talked about this one. Think bigger. Whatever bigger means to you. It doesn't mean you have to have a $100 million company. But think bigger. Get out of the present. Because when you think about the future, it lets you make decisions in the present. And then we already talked about this one. The third one I have is find your purpose. Whether it's find your why, find your superpower, discover what it is about what you're doing that it connects with you. Get out of the superficial stuff. Get out of what everyone tells you to say, what you read. Get out of that stuff. Oh, I'm trying to help people, or I want to make a difference. No. Be selfish. What are you about? Because you got yourself a story. There's a reason why you're doing this. The more you tap in, the more you start to connect with people. And let's face it, Nathan, that's what our business is. We connect with people, whether it's patients, whether it's doctors, whether it's staff. We connect with people. And you can't connect with people as well if you don't know what you're about, because then you become an amoeba and you start being everything to everybody and you don't even know who you are. And that causes stress and that keeps you stuck.
Definitely. Yeah, I had a meeting with a client last week and they asked me a great question. They said, hey, how are we doing with the coaching and whatnot? And I noticed that, you know what, we've talked about a number of things and you guys have made a lot of changes, but you're not setting aside time to working on the business. You're still treating full time and expecting things to change on your off hours. And if you don't take the time necessary that your business needs, and I like to call it like this, that your business is love language. If it had a love language, is quality time. Like, you need to give the business quality time. And the more you give it quality time, the better it will become, especially intentional, focused time that's not paying bills and catching up on notes and crap like that, fixing the toilets because you're more than likely the handyman at your business. Just focusing on your business. And I really recognized how, number one, that can be a fear point for some owners because they don't know what to do with that time outside of catching up on notes and cutting checks, right? And number two, no longer have the immediate exchange of, I treat a patient and I know what that's worth. Like you said, exchanging time for money, and to think that I can get a return on admin time, it's above their mindset. And so I with all the things that we've covered today, if I were to tell people to do one thing, I mean, there's plenty of things they can do. Start with the why, get a vision, start reaching out. But like boots on the ground, maybe something you can do tomorrow. Well, stop treating for half a day and start working on your business. And consider these things, all the things that we talked about, put it into a 4 to 5 hour block and start working on them.
Yeah, well, I love what you said. I mean, first of all, I'm going to steal that, the whole love language and the time. So remember.
Dang it, I should have trademarked it.
Good artists borrow, great artists steal.
Right.
I'm a great artist. I'm stealing your stuff. You'll see it everywhere. You said the word quality time. You just didn't say time.
Right.
So quality time doesn't mean 30 hours a week. It could mean a couple hours a week. I love when I'm asked the question, well, how much time is this going to take? Which, of course, is a trade time for money, right? That's immediately where their mindset is coming from.
Right.
And I said, it will take as much time as it takes. How much time is it worth for you to get what you just told me you wanted?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how much time is it worth? Is it worth an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours? Whatever it is, it really doesn't matter. But to sit here and overthink it and overanalyze it and wait for the perfect, well, I could do 3 hours. Well, I could do 2 hours. Maybe if I do this, you know what? Let's talk about this in 30 days. When can we schedule a time together? But I can't schedule a time because I'm not really sure. Let me get back to you on when I can schedule a time to talk about how I should utilize my time.
Right.
It's just perpetual, procrastination.
Right.
Type of thing, because we don't want to lean into what the real issue there. Mm-hmm. There's always a level of fear on some level.
Right.
One of the things that I started asking people is, what's really your fear? Is it the fear that you're going to fail? Mm-hmm. Because you really haven't failed anything in your life. Because, let's say most people in our professions are not only successful in academia and their vocation, but a lot of them are athletes,
right?
Pretty successful athletes. So there hasn't been a lot of, quote, failing, so to speak. Or is the fear of success? See, what happens when you take the excuses away? What happens when you can drive the Mercedes instead of making fun of someone else driving it and saying, you're really good, I don't need that kind of car, my Prius is fine.
Mm-hmm.
See, what happens when you start leaning into the wiring that's in your brain that needs to be upgraded? See, you need an iOS update.
Yeah.
That's what we do here.
Yeah.
I know that's what you do, and that's what we do. And that's what every successful person on the face of the planet has done. They've upgraded their wiring. They upgrade how they see things and how they look at things. And then that leads to taking specific actions and all of that. If you don't upgrade your wiring, which is kind of what I talked about with CST, that mindset, that view, that concept of how you see things, if you don't upgrade that, then you're always going to be looking at the how-to of something and never really understanding it, which means you're always going to then be reliant on the next thing.
Right.
Which then puts you in a position of not power. It's actually a position of weakness. And it scares the crap out of people. I mean, I know I felt this way, that when someone asked me that question, they go, Jamey, what are you really afraid of? And I said, success. Why? Because it would make me come to grips that I'm letting go of my previous identity. Mm. See, as long as I treat, right before I stopped treating, and it was an evolution, it took me 9 years to, quote, stop treating.
Oh, yeah.
Once I stopped treating on purpose, like I wanted to stop treating, I kept on three patients. I couldn't let go because in my mind, and I've dove in a lot, my own psychologicalness, in my mind, I was still a physical therapist, a treating physical therapist. Right. And once I let go of those people, I'm a business owner. Jamey, what do you do? I own a rehab business. Mm-hmm. What do you do? I'm an entrepreneur. I have a rehab business in the area.
Right.
And we help, athletes and people get back to, I started to change how I answered the what do you do question. Prior to that, you'll never guess what I said. Nathan, what do you do?
I'm a physical therapist. Totally disregarding the fact that you own a business.
You started to narrow down who you are by your license.
Right.
And you're so much more than that. And if you own a business, lead with that. The easiest way to generate more referrals, stop telling people you're a physical therapist. Really start telling them what you really are.
Yeah.
And communicate where they go, and they start asking questions. I mean, it's right. It really is how we think of ourselves. So that was one of the things that really has that I see as a fear is, and that happens to a lot of people when you start to get to that $1 million mark. Yeah. I have this talk, 7 steps to a 7-figure business, and people that I've worked with that cross over that $1 million, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million. Especially that $1 million to $1.5 million, when you have a team in place, you're generating, revenue, there's money, there's profit in there. You start to have to, you have to start letting go, right? You're letting go you as a therapist. You start to letting go as you as a manager. All of us suck at managing. If you really want to be a clinical director, go work for somebody else.
Right.
Don't be a clinical director in your own business. It's the worst place to be. It's horrible.
Yep.
And I start to hear from people that they don't want to let go. It was hard enough letting go as a therapist. Now I'm letting go as the clinical director, because you're letting go of that whole identity and you're having to start being a business owner. Now you're questioning, Nathan, what people think of you.
Totally.
And that, most likely for you and I, is for another discussion. But
that's right.
That is, it goes that deep sometimes. I mean, it doesn't, when people are just starting, if you get someone that, has a couple 100,000 or whatever, if you want, and they just, they just need tactical how-to at that point.
Right.
You start learning mindset, you need to,
exactly.
But as you start getting more complex and working with staff, it's all about how you see things. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't happen by you reading a book necessarily. Reading is important, but actually implementing it and actually having people that care for you, that help you curate along this journey, that's how you make this thing go faster. Right. Still got to go through the bumps and bruises, but man, it's better than the slaughter.
That's right. The languishing.
The languishing.
Let's bring it back to languish. Cool. It all came full circle there.
It all comes back. We always bring it back right for the beginning. Getting unstuck.
That's right. Cool, man. Well, hey, we spent plenty of time there hashing it out. Thanks for your time again today, Jamey. It was awesome having you and having a discussion like this.
For sure. I appreciate you having me. Can I do a quick plug on a quiz I created?
Of course. I was going to say, if people want to get in touch with you or what are you promoting nowadays, please do so.
Yeah. If you're listening to this right now and you're feeling, stuck in your business and you want to go to the proverbial next level, or maybe you're just treating more than you really want to, or maybe you're just like, I want to actually make some money doing this and stop just being, someone that should be working for the Little Sisters of the Poor. I mean, I want to actually provide for my family. I created a quiz. You can go to practicefreedomu.com, the letter U, and it's right there. Take the quiz. And this is the first step. It's the first step in getting the answers, getting the help that you need. In order to get that, you need to know information about where you are right now. So it's a quiz, takes 5 minutes, called the PT Practice Quiz. And it's the first step, helping you get unstuck and helping you start moving your business to where you want it to be. So
awesome. Cool. And can people reach out to you specifically through the Practice Freedom U website?
Yeah. Or you can reach out to me at Jamey at practicefreedomu.com.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Feel free to reach out. Always happy to talk to people and see what we can do to help.
Great. Well, hey, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Nathan.